Hey guys, Senior Thesis Part here, back with another video, and today's a little bit of a special one because it's Daredevil Season 2, the entire season review. This won't have any spoilers, or if it does, which I'm gonna try very hard to avoid, there'll be light spoilers. So Daredevil Season 2, getting into it, I wasn't really sure what to expect because Daredevil Season 1 set the bar so high, and for a lot of people who watch superhero shows, it's either they usually view the best superhero shows as either The Flash or Daredevil. So I was wondering how season 2 would compare, and I don't think it lives up to season 1, but that's because season 1 set the bar way too high. I think it's a worthy sequel, a great sequel, and definitely worth watching. So I loved it. I loved it. It's addicting. It was great. The Punisher was a really complex character, and he ranged from kind of anti-villain, anti-hero to anti-villain. It was interesting because they were exploring the concept, the age-old superhero concept of where do we draw the line? Should we kill our villains or should we let them live? But it took it from kind of a more spiritual ground rather than a moralistic one most of the time. So I was really interested in that. I think they did a really good job on getting the Punisher's character and how having him contrast to Daredevil. That being said, towards the latter few episodes, it was because of what they did with the plot stuff, which I'm going to get into. I wasn't really as concerned with the Punisher's character. The next character is Elektra, and she's kind of another character. I liked how they introduced her, and I liked when they brought her in. However, again, like the Punisher, as the season went on and into the later episodes, specifically the last episode, I'm not sure what I liked what they did with her. I understand what they did with her, except for the last scene she's in. I like that just fine. But like up until that point, I was kind of iffy on it just because I wasn't sure what it didn't feel as fulfilling as it could have. And that gets into the major problem with season 2 is that there's no clear-cut villain. Season 2 is spread apart almost as arcs, so you have the like plot one or like the top arc and kind of the top plot. The major plot is Punisher, and then the lower plot is kind of what's going on behind the scenes with Nobu and the Hand. Yes, Nobu's, oh, sorry, spoiler, Nobu's alive. And the Hand, and just kind of going off of that and what that has to do with everything. And it felt a little contrived at times, so Punisher stayed there throughout the season, but he wasn't always against Daredevil. And so it just felt a little weird having a person who's supposed to be the main villain not be the main villain the entire time, but not necessarily be a hero because of all the spot stuff. Another thing that they did do is they split up the main crew where they each went on separate paths because of kind of the superhero trope of trying to balance your normal life and a romantic life and your vigilante life. And we've seen that in Flash, we've seen that in Arrow, we see that in Supergirl, so we see it all the time. It's not anything new here. But it was kind of interesting to see how, because of that, they got to explore the characters on their own personal paths because of Matt's decisions. That being said, that led into kind of the plot problems because you still have these major and minor themes, and then you have interweaving with that the character's own personal plot. So Matt's plot story would be with Elektra maybe, and not necessarily with Foggy, while Foggy would be doing something else entirely. And then you'd get to the Punisher story, and then you'd get to Karen's story, who was awesome this season, but she literally has the worst leg. So going off that, there was a lot of moving parts, and they moved the parts well, but they didn't always mesh together in my mind. That's just kind of where I'm coming from. Other than that, I really can't complain. Claire Temple is the best. The show is a little light on crossovers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just because the CW and Flash and Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow have spoiled us in that sense, where we kind of expect crossovers. Now, those are exceptions because they're all one universe and all on the same network, while Marvel has a little bit of a harder time. That being said, as a fan, I would like to see more crossover and just more cooperation within Marvel as a whole for crossovers to happen, as is the case with Star Wars and Disney, where maybe Disney TV characters don't necessarily make it up to the movies, but the movie characters definitely come down to the TV series. Then again, that's easier to do because A, Rebels is animated, and B, it takes place in between the movies. So Star Wars has it a little bit easier, but I would still like to see Marvel try harder to have these crossovers and connect these shows because it's a major thing now, and they could really benefit from it. There is some connections to Jessica Jones Two things. One is I think Alias Investigations is literally right across the hall from Nelson and Murdoch, which is funny. And two, a character from Jessica Jones does show up in the second to last or the last episode. They all blur together at this point for Daredevil, but it's kind of like a minor cameo. It's good for character development, but not much else. Overall, I think I would give Daredevil Season 2 just kind of like an 8.5 out of 10. So it's not like the 9 or 9.5 out of 10 that Season 1 would be, but it's definitely moving. It's still moving in the right direction. It still has that momentum. Next on the Netflix agenda, I believe, is Luke Cage, followed by Iron Fist. I heard rumors Iron Fist was actually supposed to appear, I think, in either the last episode of Daredevil or the last episode of Luke Cage, but I'm honestly not sure, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, that's all there is for that. Loved it. You should go watch it, and if you haven't seen Daredevil Season 1, watch that as soon as possible, and then watch Daredevil Season 2. So that's it for this. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the socials, and Seeing Thesis Bart signing off.